They say justice is blind. But on Flight 227 it wore red lipstick, a name tag, and a smile sharp enough to cut through someone's dignity. Houston International was soaked in rain and tension. The kind of tension you don't notice until it stands in front of you. A tired crowd shuffled toward Gate 47. Announcements echoed overhead. Coffee-fueled, destination-bound, lost in thought. And then there she was. A woman in a worn denim coat, curls tucked beneath a knit cap. Calm. Quiet. Boarding pass in hand. Her name was Mara Duvall. First class, seat 3A. She barely made it past the door. "You're in the wrong line," snapped the attendant. What happened next would leave a stain on an airline's reputation, spark a firestorm across social media, and force a reckoning in boardrooms far from the gate. Because Mara wasn't just a passenger. She was the person they'd all answer to. So before you see how a quiet woman turned humiliation into high-level accountability and what happened when justice boarded the plane wearing a knit cap, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss a second of this true, powerful story. Trust us, you'll want to stay until the very end. Now let's begin. Rain streaked the thick windows of Houston International as announcements crackled over the intercom. Gate 47 buzzed with tired passengers clutching coffee, eyes heavy, minds on destinations. Among them stood a small, unassuming woman. Frizzy hair tucked beneath a faded knit cap, a second-hand duffel slung over one shoulder, and a worn denim coat wrapped tight against the airport chill. Her name was Mara Duvall. She approached the gate calmly, boarding pass clutched in one hand, her ID in the other. The flight was bound for Seattle. Seat 3A first class. She barely made it 2 feet into the plane. "Excuse me, ma'am," snapped a voice from just inside the boarding door. "You're in the wrong line." Mara blinked. "This is Flight 227 to Seattle, isn't it?" "Yes," said the flight attendant. Her name tag read Chelsea. She stood perfectly polished, red lipstick, high bun, brows arched just enough to suggest she dealt with problems swiftly and without compromise. "But this is first-class boarding," Chelsea continued. "Coach is back there." She pointed behind her with a stiff, performative smile. "I'm in seat 3A, Mara replied, holding out her boarding pass. Chelsea barely glanced at it. "That's not possible. I booked it." "I said no. You're delaying boarding. Please step aside." Passengers behind Mara began murmuring. A man in a business suit cleared his throat. An older woman sighed audibly. Someone pulled out a phone. Mara felt every eye on her like a spotlight. Her cheeks flushed. Chelsea gestured to a nearby security officer. "Sir, we have a disruption here." That's when it escalated. Fast. Mara tried again. "There must be some mistake." "Ayo. You can't sit here." Chelsea snapped. "You're not in first class. You don't belong in this section." And just like that, Mara Duvall, calm, quiet, harmless, was escorted off the plane in front of everyone. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't fight back. She simply nodded, eyes down, and walked off. But as she passed Chelsea, she said one thing. "I'll be back." The flight went on without incident until halfway through when Chelsea received a strange message from the captain. "Someone from corporate's on board," he said over the intercom. "Traveling under internal review. That's all I know." Chelsea's stomach flipped. She hadn't been briefed about an audit. Why wouldn't they warn the crew? And who was it? Not one of the usual suits. "Someone's going to lose their job," she muttered, sipping lukewarm coffee. She had no idea. Seattle HQ 3 days later ***. The email went out on a Thursday morning. To all Seattle-based flight crew. Subject, internal review, immediate action required. From Corporate Audit Division. Flight 227 has been selected for a full customer experience audit. All crew members will report to HQ at 2 p.m. Friday for formal review. M. Duvall, Lead Auditor, Executive Oversight Division. Chelsea stared at the name. M. Duvall? No. She sprinted through her phone history. Scrolled back to the flight manifest. Passenger 3A. Mara Duvall, ***. That poor woman in the coat. She was the auditor. And Chelsea had kicked her off the flight in front of everyone. The conference room was too white walls, white chairs, white light. Chelsea sat at the far end, flanked by 2 fellow flight attendants and the purser from Flight 227. They all wore the same frozen half-smile, the kind that said, "I don't know what this is about, but I'm too professional to sweat it." Then the door opened. And in walked Mara Duvall. No hat, no faded coat. Her natural curls framed her face like a halo, and she wore a tailored navy suit that draped with authority. Diamond studs in her ears. A thin leather folder in one hand. Chelsea's heart dropped into her stomach. Mara didn't look at her, not at first. She addressed the room with the calm precision of someone who didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. Thank you for coming. I'm Mara Duvall, lead auditor for the Executive Oversight Division. I conduct incognito quality assurance reviews of customer experiences on our high-priority routes. She let that hang in the air like a judge's gavel. Then her eyes landed on Chelsea. And held. Flashback, 48 hours early. Seattle-Tacoma Airport baggage claim. Mara watched as travelers retrieved their glossy Samsonite luggage. Hers was a scuffed carry-on, small but carefully packed. She stepped outside to hail a cab and her phone rang. Go ahead, she said. It was Terrence Mills, Senior VP of Customer Relations. We got the footage. Good, Mara said. We also pulled your history. You've been bumped down on 4 flights this quarter. 2 gate agents flagged your credentials as suspicious. I know. You were profiled. I was tested, Mara corrected. And so were they. She hung up. Seattle HQ conference room? Mara sat at the head of the table. Behind her, a screen flickered to life. Surveillance footage. Gate 47. There it was, a Chelsea stepping in front of Mara, blocking her, waving security over. Chelsea's face went pale. I'd like to walk through the footage. But first, I want to hear your version, Mara said quietly. Chelsea tried to keep her voice even. We were at capacity. It was a busy boarding window. I was just trying to keep order. Order doesn't require humiliation, Mara said without looking up from her notes. I didn't humiliate her, you. I just misread the boarding pass. You didn't read it at all. Mara placed her pass on the table. 3A Priority 1 clearance, ***. Chelsea's jaw clenched. The silence was heavy, broken only when Mara leaned forward. Tell me, Ms. Foster, what was it about me that made you certain I couldn't be flying first class? Chelsea said nothing. Behind Mara, the screen shifted again, now playing passenger cell phone footage posted to social media. One video had over 1.2 million views. The caption read, ***, flight attendant kicks off black woman from first class. She said she'd be back, ***. By Friday night, the airline's PR team was in freefall. #MaraDuvall *** trended for 3 days. Articles popped up across major outlets. Airline exec goes undercover, uncovers hidden bias in the skies ***. You can't sit here, flight attendant faces termination after profiling lead auditor ***. Black woman mistaken for coach passenger was actually the boss ***. Internal emails leaked. So did prior complaints against Chelsea. 3 unresolved cases, all involving women of color. The CEO called Mara directly. What do you want us to do? He asked. I want your crew retrained, Mara said. I want new accountability protocols. And I want Chelsea Foster removed from customer-facing duties. Done. 1 week later, Flight 227 prepared for another route to Seattle. First class boarded early. This time, no one questioned the black woman in seat 3A. A new flight attendant brought her ginger tea, smiled nervously, and said, Is there anything else I can get you, Ms. Duvall? Mara smiled. No, thank you. I'm just here to observe. She looked out the window, the skyline fading behind cloud cover. And somewhere, in a back office far from the public eye, Chelsea Foster packed her things. Justice didn't always come with fanfare. Sometimes it boarded quietly. Took its seat. And waited. Seattle HQ, 2 days after the review ***. Chelsea sat alone in a holding room with frosted glass walls, HR purgatory. She'd been pulled from active duty and placed on administrative review. Unpaid. Every time someone walked past the glass, she flinched. Were they watching her? Talking about her? They were. And the word they kept whispering, **auditor**, felt like a knife. She replayed the moment again in her mind. The coat. The bag. The soft voice. The confidence. The eyes. She hadn't seen a threat. She'd seen someone beneath her. And that, she now realized, was the problem. Her phone buzzed. Your scheduled review will begin in 30 minutes. Please report to conference room C. She gripped her blazer tighter. Her polished look, once armor, now felt like a costume. Everyone could see through it. Meanwhile, Mara's apartment, late evening ***. Mara sat at her kitchen table with a glass of red wine and her tablet open. Headlines still flashed her face, but she ignored them. She'd been through worse. She clicked open an old file. Incident report, Flight 611, Boston to Atlanta, ***. Passenger M. Duvall was asked to surrender her seat after being mistaken for cabin crew. No apology was offered, ***. Then another. Incident, Flight 413, San Diego to JFK, ***. Passenger Duvall was asked to prove her ID twice after clearing TSA. Boarding pass confirmed. No reprimand issued to gate agent, asterisk. She documented them all. The subtle slights. The not-so-subtle ones. The way no one ever said the words but always sent the same message. You don't belong here, asterisk. Until now. Terrence Mills stood before the board. We've already received 3 major corporate complaints since the footage went viral. 2 partners are requesting internal reviews. We're hemorrhaging trust with key demographics. He clicked a remote. Mara's photo filled the screen, her on the plane, seated calmly in 3A. Ms. Duvall's review wasn't just about her treatment. She was auditing our entire culture. Silence. The CEO nodded slowly. What does she recommend? Mara stepped into the room just then unannounced. They all turned. She carried a slim folder and nothing else. I recommend we stop confusing diversity with decor, she said. One brochure doesn't fix years of systemic blindness. This wasn't about a seat. It was about perception. Authority. Respect. She placed the folder on the table. In this file are the names of 17 other customers of color who filed similar complaints over the last 2 years. None of them were taken seriously. That ends today. Nobody moved. Also, she added coolly, your public apology wasn't enough. I want a personal statement sent to every impacted passenger. Signed. No boilerplate. And I want equity-based training, not just sensitivity videos. Real engagement. A pause. And Chelsea Foster, the CFO asked. Shouldn't be near a customer ever again, Mara said. Chelsea sat across from a 3-person panel, HR, an ethics rep, and someone from compliance. We're here to give you a chance to explain yourself before final determination, said the HR manager. Chelsea opened her mouth, closed it. Then said, I made a mistake. Silence. I saw a woman in a coat and assumed. I didn't think someone who looked like that would be in first class. But I didn't mean harm. I swear. Do you understand why that's the problem? Asked the ethics officer, a Latina in her 40s. I do now, Chelsea said. I panicked. It's a high-pressure job. We're taught to move fast, eh? You weren't moving fast. You didn't even scan her ticket. You just decided she didn't belong. That's not panic. That's judgment. The words hit like bricks. Chelsea folded. I thought she was trying to sneak up. And if she looked different, the officer asked gently. Chelsea didn't answer. 1 week later, a press conference was held. We acknowledge the mistakes made during Flight 227 ***, the CEO said. We failed to uphold our values and we are actively rebuilding trust. Mara stood beside him silent, dignified. When she finally spoke, it wasn't from anger. It was from truth. I didn't ask to be disrespected, she said. But I didn't let it break me. I've spent years proving I belong in rooms people try to escort me out of. That ends now. Not just for me, but for every person who looks like me and hears the words, you can't sit here. The room was still. Then the first round of applause. Then more. Flight 227 was in the air again. A teenage black girl in 3B glanced nervously at the white man next to her. You fly often? He asked. No, first time, she said shyly. College interview. Big day. She nodded. A voice came over the intercom. Welcome aboard. This is your captain. Today's flight will be overseen by Executive Auditor Mara Duvall, seated in 2A. Please join us in welcoming her as part of our renewed mission. Respect every seat, every story. In 3A, the girl blinked. Then turned to see Mara, graceful, calm, sipping tea. Mara smiled. Don't worry, she said. You're exactly where you're supposed to be.